everybody, and welcome to the first conversation with Best Practice in Conversation. I'm so excited to introduce you to my first guest today, which is Andrea Manning. Andrea, I've known for quite a while now. I'm really looking forward to talking to her, as I feel she's got some real valuable tips that she's going to pass on to you. Andrea is the owner of Data Influence, and she's also in the process of developing an incredible new software called CyberPi, which she'll tell you a little bit about. And today we're going to talk about an issue which is probably something we're all very familiar with, and I'll share that with you in a second. But first, I'll just get Andrea to introduce herself to you. Welcome, Andrea. It's so lovely to have you here with us today.
Hi, Assumpta. Thank you for having me. And I mean, this is my favorite thing to do because I love cybersecurity. I find it so interesting. I love the fact that it's like watching an episode of Netflix, that it's full of intrigue and drama, and pretty much it comes down to human psychology. And so many people look at cybersecurity as this big scary thing, or the hoodie, the hacker with the hoodie on. And I'm just this really sort of practical optimist that says, well, yeah, there's bad stuff, but this is how you can do it. And I've got lots of sort of hints and tips, and all I want to do is be able to share them because they're free.
It's fantastic. You know what? And one thing that I could not share in one sentence is that I'm excited about cybersecurity. Because as you absolutely say, it's one of those things that people are very, very fearful of, and they, it's like, a bottomless pit of, where do I go with this? So we had kind of talked about it, and we said today we would talk about one area, which is passwords. So I know that's something that you're very passionate about.
Okay, so passwords are probably the biggest cause of all the data breaches and things. And the thing is, it's not actually the person's fault, because we are expected to remember hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of passwords. How else do you do them? You write them down, or you stick with a really simple one. So until such time as they come up with better solutions, we have to find a way of managing our passwords. Because the problem is, as smart as we get and as smart as all the technology gets, so do the criminals. And they have access to tools and solutions that can crack your password in seconds.
Wow, tell me about that. So give me an example of what you mean by that. How do they actually do it?
Okay, so there's one that's called the dictionary attack. So literally, they take your username and they guess your password, and they literally run it through a dictionary program. So if you are using a dictionary word, depending on how simple it is, or even if you've added a few letters on the end, because we all increment our passwords with 1, 2, 3, whatever at the end, they can just automatically crack your password. So what we're finding now is that people aren't actually hacking you. They are actually just logging in because they have your password, your username and your password. And the problem is you can be using, big accounts like Dropbox or MailChimp or British Airways or any of those, but those big companies are targets. So when they are compromised, your username and password combo is then out in this place they call the dark web, and it can be bought hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of times over. So then they take these username and password combos, and they go, well, if Assumpta had a Dropbox account, chances are she's got a Zoom account, she's got a Canva account, she's got a MailChimp account. And again, they use an automatic program, and they've got, like a brute force attack. They just pile in all these combos and see which ones can we get in. So when Zoom, last year when everybody was on Zoom, also people go, oh, my Zoom account's been hacked. But it hadn't been. They had the username and password that maybe you'd used somewhere else and had been compromised.
Yeah.
And then they were logging in.
Yeah.
So
how do we fix it? Because ultimately, as you say, our heads are wrecked with, you're asked to create a password, and you're asked to put in one capital letter, must contain a symbol, must contain, numbers or whatever. So how do we do something that ultimately, when you are creating passwords, now you're often forgetting them. So each time you log in, you're going for a forget password. So how do we create a password then that's safe, that perhaps we could use across many platforms, but it would be much more difficult to, I suppose, for those cyber criminals to figure out?
Okay, so you can't use the obvious one. So I'm just looking here. I've got a list of the most popular passwords: ABC 123, million to
they deserve it.
Sunshine,
they hacked.
Dragon.
Those, yeah.
Just in case you think you're smart, all the swear words are also in that list.
Wow.
Okay.
Okay,
They are.
that's crazy. Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so don't choose an obvious password. The next rule is you can't use the same password in two different places, because I say if that one place is hacked, they then have your details and they might try and log in somewhere else. So it has to be a unique password every. If you work from home and it's just you in your little home office, there's nothing wrong with having your passwords in a little book. If you work in a shared office or an office that has a lot of sort of public coming through or whatever, and that password book was stolen or maybe taken by a disgruntled employee, they've just walked away with the keys to your kingdom.
Yeah.
The same thing if you put all your passwords in a nice Excel spreadsheet called passwords and you store it up in the cloud. If they get hold of it, again, they've just got the keys to your kingdom.
Yeah, yeah.
So there is only really one way now, and that is a password manager.
Okay.
And they're brilliant. They do it all for you.
Okay. So how do they work?
So you sign up to a password manager, and the main ones are like, I think, €2 or €3 a month.
Wow.
And you install it on your computer. It syncs with your home computer maybe, or it syncs with your mobile phone, and you can have storage sort of vaults where one is all your business passwords and one may be your personal passwords. And then what it does is it always suggests a new password for you, a nice secure one. It auto fills the password in when you get to the website. And the only password you need to remember then is your one for the password manager.
Okay, very good. Okay, which is very important to make that as complex as possible, obviously.
Exactly. Yeah. So do not pick ABC123 or Fluffy 123 or your GP practice name 123. Okay. The best way they say it is just a passphrase. So you pick something that's memorable. So I'm going to lie about my age now. I'm going to say my passphrase is I grew up in Johannesburg in 1980.
Okay.
Okay. So for me, I don't even have to think about that phrase. I know that phrase. Then you take that phrase and you mess with it. So maybe the I becomes a 1, the G in Johannesburg becomes an 8, the S becomes a $sign.
Okay, and so every S is always a $sign, and every letter is always going to be a particular number or a symbol.
Yeah, so
that's a fantastic idea.
Now, obviously, you've got to still always have a unique password. So say you don't go down the password manager path just yet, and you just want to set things. So things like, I don't know, if you're using Dropbox, what's memorable about Dropbox? And you make up a phrase. I must remember to pay something. You know, you can come up with a passphrase that's relevant to the account.
Yeah, or it could be something contained within a document within it, or something complex. Yeah.
That's the thing. But your children's names and your pets' names and all of those things, they're all on social media, so it wouldn't take much to figure out your password.
Okay, very good point. Yeah.
But my big thing is don't feel overwhelmed, and don't always think, oh my God, well, it's just a hopeless case that they're just going to get to me anyway. There are so many ways that you can manage it. But the main one is just to not reuse passwords, because that's the scary bit. Because once they have your details, and they have my details, they have your details, all of our details are for sale on the internet in some place. But they have that, you don't want them logging into your other accounts.
Okay. Yeah, because actually I came across it very recently, an influencer, well, she's not really an influencer actually. It was Vicky Phelan. She's the cervical cancer advocate, and she would have a very big following both on Twitter and on Instagram. More recently on Instagram, but she had a massive following, probably about 60,000 followers, and her account was hacked. And they picked the wrong lady, because I don't know if you're familiar with her, but she is one resilient, strong lady, and she does not give up a fight. But she got a message, and I think it was for 2,500. They were looking for to restore her account. And basically it just said, there's no point in you trying, we now own your account and whatever. So she put it out on Twitter. And I think she's got an even bigger following on Twitter, because she really is an incredible lady. And within, I think, because she started off a new Instagram account, within, I think, about 20 minutes, she had about 25 or 30,000 followers again on Instagram. somehow, I don't know whether it was to do with her profile or somebody came, obviously because of her profile, did manage in fact to recover her account. Probably because of who she is, there's obviously ways of doing it. But she decided to park her old one anyway and just to use the new one. But it just goes to show how easily it can happen. And the other thing then, Andrea, I suppose to touch on is this what do they call it? Double what, I can't even pronounce it.
Two-factor authentication.
Yeah, tell me about that.
Okay, so what we say with security, it's just the same as your house. You would have a lock on your front door, you might have a burglar alarm, you might have a gate with a padlock.
Yeah.
You build in layers of security, and the more deterrence you put in, the less likely they're going to get in. So it's the same with security. There's no one thing that's going to save you, but it's like an onion. You just build layers and layers and layers of security. So two-factor authentication, like they make you do it now with your bank account. You're not allowed to not have it. The other place you 100% need to have it is your email account.
Okay, how do you do it? So if I have an Outlook account, I just log into it. So how do you set it up with that?
In anything, you'll go into your settings and they have security settings and you tick two-factor authentication. So what it means is if somebody gets into your account and they try to reset it or take it over or change the password or lock you out, you're going to get a message to another device, generally your phone, that says, did you want to change your password? Was this you? And then you get a code maybe, and you have to enter the code. So how some of these scams work, whether it's Instagram or WhatsApp, is quite often that code you get a code to your phone. You're busy, you're doing 100 other things. You get a call saying, oh, this is the bank, or this is so-and-so, and somebody's just trying to log into your phone. We need this code. Read me the code over the phone. Or it can be your sister saying, oh, I'm locked out of my WhatsApp account, so I've asked them to send a code to your phone. Would you send that code to me? If anybody ever asks you to share one of those, what they call one-time passwords, one of those codes, it's a scam. Run. Do not share that number, because they're tricking you, and then basically they get in the code and they can reset the account and take it over.
Wow.
So two-factor authentication is just basically saying any changes to your account, we're going to double check it a different way.
Okay.
Now we can save that for another day, because there's a whole way of managing that.
Definitely.
I have a little app
that. Yeah, and I suppose I only mentioned it in terms of the password as it being an extra layer, because I know that's something I've heard quite a lot about lately. Again, as you say, it's that extra layer, that extra door in your house, or that extra lock on your door, or whatever it might be. So if we were to, suppose, recap, because I think it's so important that we kind of get a message, across in terms of passwords and what we've done today. If you were to summarize and to give 3 tips in terms of passwords today, Andrea, what would they be?
Okay. The main one is to secure your email account.
Okay.
Because if I get into your email account, I could change all your accounts. I could ask for password resets on every one of your accounts.
Okay.
So your email account must have a really good password with two-factor authentication.
Okay.
Don't reuse passwords, because it just makes it so easy for them to get in.
Possibly guilty, yeah. Not after today, but yeah.
And there's a 3rd, 4th, and 5th one, like try a password manager or use these passphrases. But my approach to security is one byte at a time. So you know what? If you just leave today and you go and change one password, you're better off.
Okay, very good.
Just don't feel overwhelmed. Just do it one byte at a time. That's my whole approach, because we're just like children. If we have a list of 20 things to do, we'll do none of them.
We'll not do them.
One thing, we'll do it.
Yeah.
So today, make sure that really your password may be on your email account. Make sure that that's super duper, and pick a nice phrase for it.
I think that's an absolutely fantastic tip, because as you say, that is the gateway to be able to access everything else. So if that's not secure, you're absolutely scuppered, really. It's the most important. Fantastic tip. Andrea, it's been fantastic talking to you. There's loads more topics we can talk about, and as you said, if you can take away, and that's the whole concept behind CyberPie as well. And actually say a little bit about CyberPie while we're on, just to finish off. But it is around that whole concept of one bite at a time and doing things in manageable chunks. so that you don't become overwhelmed, but more importantly, that you actually action something rather than trying to do too much.
That's the thing. So cybersecurity has been made into this big, scary, bad thing. And it's just like when I used to smoke, if I saw a smoking advert on the TV, I would change the channel. That's how we deal with fear.
Yeah.
We change. So it's exactly the same thing. So I want to say to people, you know what, this is doable. I've got you. I've got hints and solutions. And let's build your security one bite at a time. 5 minutes a week, do one little thing, or just learn one little thing, or just know this. So if there's a latest scam like the WhatsApp one with the thing, if I tell you about that, that's you sorted. If I show you a picture of the latest text message phishing scam, you've registered it. When you see it, you'll be like, oh, I know that's a scam. I can teach you about how they play on our emotions and things. So all I want to do is share all I know, but in one bite at a time. And we don't work in big companies where we get sent on training courses. We have to figure it out ourselves. So my idea is to give all these sort of small operations like GP surgeries or pharmacists or the little business consulting businesses a piece of the cybersecurity pie, because I don't feel that people are talking to us as we should be spoken to.
No, I absolutely agree with you. It's actually been so good to talk to you. I'm going to put all your contact details on this as well when we send it out to share it. It's been so insightful, and also I think you had said you might do a little document that we can share as well with some of your top tips in there. And as you said, even just one a week. You know, if you do one a week, then that's huge, because there are so many distractions. So if you try to focus on too many things, you just will not get them done. And I even know that from experience, and you know that from experience as well, especially being a small business. It's been great. Thank you so much.
My pleasure. Thank you.
I definitely will be talking to you again. We haven't fully decided what we'll be talking about, but I can guarantee you it'll be something that will bring value to you. And thanks so much for your time today, Andrea.
Thanks, and stay safe.